why the Baltimore Ravens will win the Super Bowl in 2019. Make sure to stay tuned to find out why. What's up, everybody? It's JT Sports and back to you guys with another video, continuing my series talking about why all 32 NFL teams will win the Super Bowl in 2019. And this video I'm going to be talking about why the Baltimore Ravens will win the Super Bowl in 2019. Now, before I begin, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more NFL videos and content. And why the Baltimore Ravens will win the Super Bowl in 2019. A lot of people are counting out the Baltimore Ravens because of Lamar Jackson. And Lamar Jackson's my favorite player in the NFL. Last year, Lamar Jackson took the Baltimore Ravens team to the playoffs for the first time in years. Won their first AFC North crown in the last couple of seasons. This team was on the outside looking in on the playoffs before Lamar Jackson became the starter. And led the Baltimore Ravens to the playoffs. And the Baltimore Ravens offensive coordinator last season, he wasn't really that innovative. This was a guy who basically was a little bit predictable, and it caught up to him in that playoff game versus the LA Chargers. Now the Baltimore Ravens have a new offensive coordinator in Greg Roman. I already made a video about this, but let me give you guys a little bit of a recap of Greg Roman's track record. This was the same guy who was the offensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers when Colin Kaepernick took them to the Super Bowl. 2011 or 2010 to 2013, he took Colin Kaepernick to the freaking Super Bowl. When Greg Roman was the 49ers offensive coordinator, he made Colin Kaepernick one of the most polarizing quarterbacks in the NFL during the time. Then, we got to look at what he did with Buffalo for his 2 seasons there. Tyrod Taylor was a Pro Bowler under Greg Roman. So Greg Roman has had success with dual threat quarterbacks. And we can only assume with his track record that he's going to have success with Lamar Jackson. Colin Kaepernick wasn't the most polished passer. And people forget that Lamar Jackson had the second highest completion percentage from all starting rookie quarterbacks last season that were drafted ahead of him. Other than Baker Mayfield, Lamar Jackson had a higher completion percentage than Josh Allen, Josh Rosen, and Sam Darnold. He's the only quarterback from that draft class of 2018 to carry his team to the playoffs. I believe that he will develop as a passer this season. And when he does, you got to take into account of his running ability. It's going to be hard to stop. They're going to throw it. Teams are going to stack the box, try to stop this run game of the Baltimore Ravens with Mark Ingram, Gus Edwards, Kenneth Dixon, and Justice Hill, who is a change of pace back from all of the power backs they have on their team. Teams are going to stack the box, and when they stack the box, they're going to throw it over the top to one of the talented tight ends that they have, and either Hayden Hurst, Mark Andrews, or Nick Boyle. So the Baltimore Ravens team has a lot of talent at this tight end position and at the halfback position. They got Mark Ingram in free agency, very powerful back. They got Gus Edwards, who was a big surprise last season. You got Kenneth Dixon, who if he can get rid of the fumbling issues, he's a pretty okay halfback. Then you got Justice Hill, who they got in this year's NFL draft, who is one of the fastest players coming out of this draft class. He's a change of pace halfback for this Baltimore Ravens offense. Then we got to look at the wide receiving core. Now, they have a lot of young, talented wide receivers. You got Willie Snead, who had a pretty solid year last year. You got Miles Boykin. You got Marquise Brown, one of the biggest playmakers in college football in 2018 last season. Very exciting to see him and Lamar Jackson have that connection. Him and Lamar Jackson both came from Broward County, Florida, the same county that Kodak Black came from, Lamar Jackson's best friend. So they're going to have a pretty good connection. So Lamar Jackson, he has a lot of things to work with in his offense. A young offense, a lot of young players, and they also have a pretty solid offensive line. You got left tackle Ronnie Stanley, you got left guard Alex Lewis, you got center Matt Skula, you got right guard Marshall Landa, who is one of the best offensive guards in the NFL. You got right tackle Orlando Brown, who I think is going to be the Baltimore Ravens breakout player of the year on the offensive side of the ball. So this Baltimore Ravens offense, although they're going to emphasize running the football, I don't think you want to give Lamar Jackson opportunities to beat you through the air, because he has proved last season that he has shown flashes of being able to do damage through the air. And this season, I believe that Lamar Jackson is going to prove a lot of people wrong. And he's going to be good enough to carry this Baltimore Ravens team to the Super Bowl. He was good enough to carry them to the playoffs last season. Now he's going to be more improved as a passer, with a better offensive coordinator, and an offensive coordinator that has worked with dual threat quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson. This offense is good enough to win the Super Bowl. Then we got to talk about the defense. This defense, although they lost Eric Weddle, they replaced him with Earl Thomas. Earl Thomas is an upgrade from Eric Weddle. Yeah, Eric Weddle was pretty solid for his age, but Earl Thomas is way, way better than Eric Weddle. He's an upgrade, and he's younger. Then we got to look at the defensive line. They got Chris Wormley, who's pretty good. You got Brandon Williams. You got Dalen Mack, who is a big, tough run stopper. You got Gerald Willis, who I think is going to be a very, very underrated piece of this defense. He was an undrafted free agent out of the University of Miami. Other than Ed Oliver, I don't think it was a defensive lineman in this draft class who had a more explosive burst coming off of that line when the quarterback snaps the ball than Gerald Willis. This guy blows up blocks. He's very hard to block when he gets a good head of steam going and a good burst off that defensive line. He was always in the Miami Hurricanes backfield, disrupting things, stopping the run. He can also get after the quarterback as well. So Gerald Willis can be another player who can end up having a big impact for this Baltimore Ravens defense. Then we also got to talk about their pass rushers. They got Fernell McPhee. They got Michael Pierce. That's a very solid group of pass rushers. Then they also they lost TJ Mosley and free agency to the New York Jets. But you want to know why I don't think that's going to be such a big loss? Because they have Patrick Owosu, a.k.a. Peanut. Now, for those of you guys who don't know, Patrick Owosu has some highlights that went viral earlier this offseason. This guy's a freak of nature. Imagine what he's going to do this year now that the Baltimore Ravens are going to give him more opportunities on the field and more snaps. This guy's going to snap. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up having 10 or more sacks this season, and I think he'll end up being a Pro Bowler. Then we also got to look at guys like Tim Williams and Jalen Ferguson. Jalen Ferguson out of Louisiana Tech, he was a first-round pick. He fell because of personal issues and things like that, but Jalen Ferguson is very, very talented. Then you also got to look at linebackers. You got Kenny Young, Patrick Owosu, a.k.a. Peanut, and Shane Ray. That's a very solid group of linebackers there, and that linebacker core is going to be really, really, really solid. But what I think is going to be the heart and soul of this Baltimore Ravens team is how good of a secondary that they have. You got Marlon Humphrey, who is one of the best young cornerbacks in the NFL. He's on his way to becoming a top 10 cornerback, and he is the definition of a shutdown corner. Then you got Jimmy Smith. Although Jimmy Smith is up there in age, he's not what he used to be. He's still a pretty solid starting cornerback in the NFL. You also got Brendan Carr. He's solid as well. So you have a very solid group of cornerbacks on this Baltimore Ravens defense that are good enough to lock down the opposing team's wide receivers. Then we got to talk about the safety position. You got Tony Jefferson, who is pretty solid. He had a pretty solid year. You got Earl Thomas. We already know how good Earl Thomas is. Don't really have to explain that. Earl Thomas might win a couple of games for the Baltimore Ravens by himself, by how big he is when it comes to making plays. Earl Thomas makes plays. Eric Weddle was a good free safety, but he wasn't Earl Thomas. Earl Thomas has a knack for finding the football and making big plays when they matter the most. That's what Earl Thomas does. He's fast. He's also a very solid tackler, and he's good in coverage. He can do it all. And they have my guy, who I think a lot of people aren't really talking about a lot, my guy, Deshaun Elliott, a.k.a. the Joker. Now, I don't know how much playing time he's going to get this season, but I think Baltimore, if they find a way to get him involved in the defense some way, somehow, like some kind of formation or packages, he's going to add to an already talented defense. So this defense is going to be good enough to be just as good as how they were last season and good enough to get this Baltimore Ravens team to the Super Bowl. Then you also got to look at their division. A lot of questions. Every team has questions going into this year. The Cleveland Browns, how are they going to fold? A lot of big expectations. The Pittsburgh Steelers, how are they going to be? The Cincinnati Bengals, we already know about the Cincinnati Bengals. Don't really need to get into them. So this Baltimore Ravens team is good enough to win the Super Bowl. It all depends on Lamar Jackson's development. And I trust Lamar Jackson. I trust Lamar Jackson because Lamar Jackson has improved over this offseason. And he has Greg Roman, who's going to help him out a lot. Greg Roman's a guy, like I've been saying all this entire video. This is a guy who has worked with dual threat quarterbacks in the past. He's worked with Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick took the 49ers to the Super Bowl. He's worked with Tyrod Taylor when he was playing for the Buffalo Bills. Tyrod Taylor was a former Pro Bowler. So this Baltimore Ravens team can legitimately win the Super Bowl in 2019. And this is why I think the Baltimore Ravens will win the Super Bowl in 2019. So let me know what you guys think about this video down in the comment section down below. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more NFL videos and content. And thanks for watching.